Lewis Hart for The Ring magazine. Delighted to be joined with Ben Shalom here. The weigh-in is all concluded. Lauren Price and Natasha Jonas without its own drama. Ben, how are things shaping up ahead of tomorrow night?
Really well. Just a huge fight and a huge night. And to be promoting at the Albert Hall is absolutely phenomenal. I'm really excited. It's not often you get to do different things as a promoter, but this was definitely on the bucket list. All-female card. First ever female fight at the Albert Hall as well. It will go down in history. Two huge names, the two best welterweights in the world, I believe, going head to head. Ring magazine belt,
of course,
and the three other belts. It's a phenomenal fight.
Do you feel like tomorrow night when we are in the venue, you'll feel the history? Because sometimes, it isn't really appreciated enough when you're in certain venues, but do you feel like tomorrow night will be different? Yeah, look, I'm going to soak it in and take it in. This is a proud moment for everyone involved in our business. We do the big events, Eubank, Ben, Whittaker, Cameron, great events, huge commercial events, but to put on this is a lot harder. To get all the females together with the biggest promoter of women's boxing now in the world, we will have the best talent in female boxing coming through, all going in 50-50 fights. It's going to be an amazing night. To have it on Sky Showcase, Sky Main Event as well, 7 o'clock, Friday night, Albert Hall. Everything will be spectacular about tomorrow night. Cindy and Ngamba off the card. What was the deal there? Obviously, I know medical reasons, if you could elaborate on that potentially. Yeah,
absolutely horrible, to be honest. Having to sit down with her family and explain she couldn't box is not easy, and she's put a lot into everything. She had to cut weight. It's just something that we saw we didn't like, and it's not been picked up before, and we need further tests, and she needs to look at that. But we'll get through it. But she can't box, unfortunately, tomorrow night.
Yeah, as I say, sad to hear that. Today wasn't without its own drama. Joe Gallagher, not happy with the calibration of the scales, as he was showing you. I think he said 9th of January or whatever. What was the deal there? What was the conversation you were having?
Look, he felt like the scales weren't calibrated recently enough. They were probably a couple of ounces too light on a couple of the fighters, from what you don't know, but I see these fighters weighing a lot, but the ball passed them. They're the regulators of the event, not ourselves, and they have been calibrated. They've been deemed legitimate, and ultimately Lauren actually came in, I think, lighter than Natasha Jonas. So whatever it was. Joe's, felt rightfully so, maybe, that Natasha Jonas hasn't had the respect that she deserves during this promotion. There's been a lot of talk about Lauren Price and what she's going to do in the sport and how good she is. Natasha Jonas, this is her 7th consecutive world title fight, and she gets better and better and better, and he just wants to make sure, I believe, that the psychology of the event, this is Natasha Jonas, she's the A side, this is her event as well, and he's going to do what he feels is necessary to protect his fighter, and I've got nothing wrong with that. It's added to the drama, and it's as much about the trainers as the fighters. This is two of the best trainers this country has ever seen, going head to head. They've got their own game plans, and it's going to be fascinating tomorrow night.
Quickly moving on, I wanted to ask you about news that came out yesterday. Turkey Al-Sheikh announced a new boxing league with Dana White and TKO, and I think Tony Khan as well. Was it WWE? Nick Khan, sorry.
Sorry, Tony.
I guess initially when you hear that, as a promoter, what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
I'm excited by it. We came into the sport to try and disrupt. It takes time from where we started to be able to do that. I think seeing all the promoters working together is fantastic, and so many investments going across the sport. Turkey's doing deals with us, with Matchroom, with the WBC, with Queensbury, now with Dana White. I think the sport in the States needs a lot more support, a lot more help. In the UK, we're pretty healthy right now, and we're seeing all the fights that we want. So I can see it being good for boxing. More investment coming into the sport is always good. And to be honest, disruption for us is great. Like, we do well in a disruptive market, and we want to see the sport grow.
So there's no worries from your part, because Dana White come out and said, we're going to crush every boxing promotion.
Look, Dana's got history with a lot of those US promoters.
Would you say it's a more US thing then?
I'm not saying. Listen, Dana's Dana is in the US, and the biggest market is the US, and that's the one that needs as much support. How many broadcasters are left in the US showing boxing?
We had Showtime leave, HBO leave, and now ESPN. ESPN, they're leaving.
And so you essentially got DAZN, and DAZN are not a well-known network over in the US. It's a fantastic boxing network, but they're not. So something has to be done. We've got to get boxing back on the major networks. Not every major network can be supplied by the same people, but we've got to get it back on the major networks, and that is the key. And disruption is good because something needs to change, because it should be one of the biggest sports in the world, and I'm all for any sort of investment into the sport.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, how do you think a league format would work in the UK as well? Because, you know, we've got a pretty sort of regimented system, as I say. You know, you've got the area level, British level, European level. Do you think that there's any chance that it does work in the UK?
I think the UK, we're seeing the fights that we want to see, and there's so much coming through, and so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that, but over time, let's see. The sport's going to evolve over the next 10, 15 years. We're going to see amazing changes. The digital world is changing. The old school promoters have been forced to work together. They never wanted to work together. We wanted to work with other promoters. They didn't. I had 10 years of being a boxing fan and not seeing Eddie and Frank work together. They've been forced to change in this environment. There's going to be more changes, and the sport should get better and grow more. So yeah, I think all in all, it's a good thing.
Talk about working together, and following on from your interview with IFL yesterday, are you going to let Eddie get on your Sky tomorrow to watch the show? If you ask him for a DAZN?
I'm sure he has a Sky subscription, the biggest network in the UK for all the sports, including darts, which he has. So no, he'll have his Sky subscription. I'm hoping he'll come down. You know, he's a big fan of women's boxing. He's done a lot for women's boxing. I think he should come and support the show on Friday night. I really do. So Eddie, if you're watching, if you really, you know, Caroline Dubois said you don't like women's boxing anymore. This is the biggest women's event of the year and will be at the Albert Hall. You have to be there. Every person that works in boxing that cares about women's boxing should be there on Friday night. This is an unbelievable card, and I expect to see you. And you can sit next to me as well. So make sure we see you tomorrow night.
Is he going to be in shot with the ring, as you said?
Look, I can't promise that.
Or do you need to be there?
I can't promise that. No, we'll make sure he's on camera. Maybe, yeah, we'll make sure you're on camera, I promise.
Before I do let you go, Ben, did have to ask about Martin Bakole. Obviously, we know that the Jaguar fight is not for an IBF eliminator.
Yep.
The idea was he was going to be on the Times Square card. That isn't the case, so what's the deal now?
He'll be on the Canelo card. Okay. And so it just works better
Jaguar
for everyone.
As well, still?
That's the plan.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any, like, a bit frustrating that that's not for eliminator? Because, as you say, when you look at big fights of Bakole, you know, a Jaguar essentially, you know, that's only really for an eliminator. So do you still have passion to make that fight, yeah?
Absolutely. The key is to keep Martin active and to give him a camp this time and to show how good he is, and that's the plan. The hardest thing with Martin Bakole was getting people to know who Martin Bakole is. I think he's done that now. Now he gets in camp, let's show how good he is. For me, still the most dangerous heavyweight in the whole division, and will become a world champion in the next 18 months.
Yeah, perfect. Ben, always a pleasure, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Top man, thank you, mate. Cheers.